Would you risk your job to save lives? It started on a rainy Tuesday. The sky was heavy, almost warning me of what was about to come. I walked into the plant as I had done for 20 years. My badge cold against my chest, the smell of oil and metal filling my nose. For 2 decades, I gave this company everything. Late nights, weekends, even birthdays with my kids. I believed in what we built. I believed safety mattered. Then my boss, Mr. Callahan, called me into his office. He always had that air about him. Sharp suit, perfect tie, and a smile that never reached his eyes. He slid a stack of safety reports across his desk. His voice was calm, almost casual, but his words cut through me like ice. These numbers are too high. Adjust them. We can't afford another inspection slowing us down. I scanned the paper. The truth was there in black and white. Machines were failing, valves leaking, pressure gauges tripping daily. Some parts hadn't been replaced in years, though they were long past their life cycle. If I changed the data, it would look like everything was fine. If I told the truth, production would stop and the company would lose millions. I looked him in the eye. Sir, people could get hurt if we keep running these machines. His smile turned cold. He leaned back in his chair, folding his hands. Then don't get in the way. Sign it or you're done here. I refused. That same afternoon, I was escorted out by security with a cardboard box of my things. 20 years of loyalty gone in a blink. The guards avoided my eyes as they walked me through the lobby. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the glass doors, an empty man carrying pieces of a career that had just been erased. I went straight to HR, clutching the documents like they were my last weapon. The HR director, a woman I'd known for years, glanced at the papers, then shook her head. You don't understand, she said softly. Mr. Callahan has brought millions to this company. We can't touch him. Best to move on. Best to move on? I couldn't sleep that night knowing workers were walking into a ticking time bomb every day. I could still smell the burning oil in my dreams. I could hear the hissing pipes in my head. My conscience clawed at me. I wrote emails. I called regulators. I sent copies of the reports. Silence. Nobody wanted to take on a company this powerful. Calls went unanswered. Letters vanished. It felt like screaming into a void. A week later it happened. The machines I had warned about exploded. The sound shook the whole block. Windows shattered. Smoke rose like a black fist into the sky. 3 men were carried out on stretchers, faces pale, bodies broken. I stood in my living room watching the news broadcast, my hands trembling so violently I dropped the remote. They said it was a tragic accident. No mention of the warnings. No mention of the lies. And Mr. Callahan? He stood in front of cameras, his hair perfectly combed, his voice calm. We are doing everything to support our injured employees, he said. I wanted to scream. He was the reason they were in the hospital beds. He was the reason I had lost my job. He was the reason 3 families were now living a nightmare. After that, I was blacklisted. No company wanted to hire the troublemaker who had gone against her boss. Word travels fast in this industry. My phone stopped ringing. Applications vanished into silence. 20 years of experience meant nothing against one powerful man's word. Meanwhile, Callahan got a promotion. The board praised his leadership during crisis. His photo was printed in business magazines as a man who handled tragedy with grace. Grace? He handled it with lies. I started bumping into the injured workers at the grocery store, at the pharmacy. One of them, Mark, had scars crawling up his arms like angry rivers. He looked at me with tired eyes and said, "We trusted them, and they left us like broken tools." His words crushed me, because he was right. Every time I see those scars, every time I hear the limp in their step, I think, this didn't have to happen. Weeks turned into months. My savings vanished. I sold my car. I even sold my wedding ring to pay for rent. My wife tried to stay strong, but every time the phone didn't ring, I saw the disappointment in her eyes. Our daughter asked why I wasn't going to work anymore. I told her the truth, because I chose to protect people. She nodded, but I could see she didn't understand why doing the right thing meant losing everything. Then the lawsuits began. Families of the injured workers wanted justice. I was called in as a witness. I thought Finally, the truth will come out. But the company had lawyers, endless money, endless ways to twist the facts. They painted me as a bitter ex-employee trying to ruin Callahan's reputation. They said I falsified documents to get revenge. Sitting there in court, listening to those lies, I realized just how small one man can feel against a system built to crush him. Still, I couldn't stop. I started talking to journalists, sending them everything I had. Most ignored me. One reporter agreed to meet. I sat in a coffee shop with a folder of evidence, my hands sweating. She listened, nodding, scribbling notes. For the first time in months, I felt hope. But a week later, her story was killed by her editor. Too risky, she said in a short email. We can't go against them. And yet the scars of those 3 men remain. Their lives shattered. Their children growing up with fathers who can't work, who can't play, who can barely stand some days. My life too was shattered. But Callahan? He's thriving. I saw him once, stepping out of a new car, laughing with colleagues. He didn't even notice me. To him, I was already erased. This isn't just about one boss. It's about a system where profit always outweighs people. A system where whistleblowers are silenced and liars are rewarded. Where warnings are buried under money and truth is treated like a threat. So tell me, who's guiltier? The man who ordered the lie? Or the entire system that protected him while workers bled? Would you believe me if I told you that a child begged a courtroom for safety, and the judge still handed her back to the man who hurt her? It started on a gray Thursday morning. The girl, let's call her Emily, was only 11. She clutched a stuffed rabbit so tightly that its fur was worn thin. her small fingers trembling as she walked into the family court. She wasn't just scared of the tall wooden benches or the stern faces. She was terrified because she knew who was waiting on the other side of the room. Her father, her abuser. Emily's mother had gathered medical records, school reports, even photographs, everything to prove what Emily had endured. Teachers had written letters about Emily's sudden panic attacks, the bruises she couldn't explain, the way she flinched at loud voices. Social workers had logged multiple visits. Neighbors had called the police after hearing screaming through the walls. The evidence was undeniable, but in that courtroom, evidence didn't matter. Emily's father sat there in a pressed suit, smiling like a man who knew the system would protect him. He leaned toward his lawyer and whispered loudly enough for Emily to hear, "She's just a drama queen. She'll say anything to avoid discipline." When Emily's mother tried to speak, the father rolled his eyes. "She's brainwashing the kid because she's bitter about the divorce. That's all this is. She's poisoning Emily against me." The lawyer nodded along, painting Emily as a liar, her mother as hysterical, and the judge listened. Judge Harrington had a reputation, pro-father. He believed children were better off with their dads to toughen them up. Custody battles in his court followed the same script. Mothers dismissed as emotional, fathers praised for being stable providers. So when Emily's mother spoke, voice cracking as she described the nights Emily woke screaming, the judge didn't look moved. He tapped his pen, impatient. When Emily herself was called to testify, she could barely breathe. She whispered, "Please don't make me go back." Her father chuckled, shaking his head. "She's got quite the imagination." And then came the judge's ruling. Children belong with both parents. Emotional claims are not enough to sever that bond. Custody remains with the father. Mother will have limited visitation. Emily's mother collapsed into her chair. Emily sobbed, begging, "Please, please, I'll be good, I promise." But the bailiff was already walking her toward her father. The weeks that followed were hell. Emily's mother tried everything, filing appeals, calling child protective services, even going to the media, but the system closed ranks. "The court has spoken," they repeated. The judge's order was final unless new evidence emerged. Meanwhile, Emily's father grew bolder. He taunted her. "See, nobody believes you. Not your mom, not the police, not even the judge. You're mine, and you'll do what I say." Every night was another nightmare. And every morning, Emily went to school with dark circles under her eyes, her laughter gone. Teachers noticed, but when they called the authorities, the response was always the same. "It's a custody matter. We can't interfere." One night, Emily couldn't take it anymore. She ran. In the pouring rain, barefoot, she sprinted 2 miles to her neighbor's house, banging on the door until her hands were raw. When the police arrived, soaked and trembling, she begged them not to send her back. But what did they do? They drove her right back to her father's house. "Sorry, kid. Judge's orders." Emily's cries echoed through the neighborhood as the front door slammed shut. Emily's mother was desperate. She went public, posting the full story online. It went viral overnight. Thousands of comments poured in. "How can this happen? Protect this child! This judge should be removed." But the backlash wasn't enough. Judge Harrington doubled down, accusing the mother of parental alienation and threatening to revoke her visitation entirely. The father smiled in court, untouchable. Months passed. Emily grew quieter, her spark fading. But the story wouldn't die. Activists picked it up. Survivors shared their own stories of being forced back to abusers by courts that valued family unity over safety. A petition gained hundreds of thousands of signatures demanding reform. Still, the system dragged its feet. Judges are rarely held accountable. The father continued his life as if nothing had happened. Emily, she became another child failed by the very people meant to protect her. Here's the part that makes me sick. The judge faced no consequences. None. He continued presiding over cases, sending more children into dangerous homes, while Emily's trauma deepened. And people ask, why don't kids come forward? Why don't they speak up sooner? Because this is what happens when they do. This isn't just about Emily. It's about every child whose cries for help are dismissed, every mother labeled hysterical, every judge who hides behind the best interest of the child while destroying that very child's life. So I ask you, who failed Emily more? The father who abused her, or the entire system that gave him the power to keep doing it?